Hi, my name's Cathy McCabe, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Proximity Insight. Proximity Insight is an innovative, real-time clienteling tool that provides tools to customer-facing teams to help them to get closer to their customers. So I'm super excited to be here today and to talk to you about some ideas around preparing for peak in 2020. And we all know that that's going to be a slightly different peak to what we've used to. So before I get into the peak session, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the segue around the future is digital. So we all know that digitisation, being digital, is very much part of our sort of DNA today. So it doesn't matter what industry you're in, what sector you work in, but digitisation is pretty much critical to the future of all businesses. There has been this huge shift at pace over the last 5 years in particular, and most brands have really focused on looking at digital transformation, which is a pretty big buzzword. But I think basically it's around looking at how you can focus your energies on ensuring that digitisation is at the heart of what you do. So whether that's finance or merchandising or creative, it's really important to think about, your company is becoming digital and touches every single function and role, including the board in many respects. So, your brand is very much becoming digital if things like analytics and data-driven insights helping you to make informed decisions and to re-engineer your business processes. Again, when we talk about technology being key, I think one of the things that we focus on a lot is the fact that most businesses and brands have huge, complex technology landscapes. And yet there's this big pressure on being innovative, whilst at the same time looking at how do you look to scale your services at a reduced cost. So a part of that is looking at different ways of working, looking at microservices, how can mobile apps, how can sort of cloud computing help you to really focus on that real intersection between humans and technology, and how you ensure that digital really touches every part of your business. So when we work with a large number of global brands in beauty, retail, homeware, lifestyle, and one of the things that we wanted to share was just really some ideas on how you can prepare for peak. So we're going to touch on 3 different topics: the changing role of customer-facing teams. We're also going to look at the rise of virtual commerce and appointment-based commerce. And then we're going to touch on one of my favourite topics, which is the importance of human connection. So firstly, we're going to look at the changing role of customer-facing teams. And it was interesting in the session earlier today where we spoke to the founders of Toshi, Sojin Lee, and Megan Neal about their businesses. And I think there's this huge connection between humans and technology. And also where and digital sort of silos are disappearing, there's this urgent need to look at embracing the blur. And this is why, your customer-facing teams are super important. But there is this need to ensure, that there's, in terms of looking at reskilling, they have to be digitally savvy. They're very much multifunctional roles now. So it's not just about answering queries or helping to answer, some questions. But it's also around, 1 minute I can be doing outreach to a customer. I could then be doing pick, pack and dispatch to send an item to a customer I could be doing curbside pickup. So, you know, there's a real sort of buzz around multi-skilled sort of functions that the customer-facing teams really need just about selling. So there's this very need to really focus on customer service, which isn't a new principle at all in the world of retail, but it's just really how that then evolves, and there is a need to adapt that with a new customer journey. You know, we talk about being able to get really close to your customers. So there's no, you know, when we look at different points in that customer journey, whether that's an appointment, whether that's live chat on a digital website, whether that's a customer service query or an in-store visit, you need to be ensuring that you're actually capturing data, that you can outreach to that customer afterwards, and then you can follow up to check, you know, that they're happy with their purchase, and then start to build that relationship from there. It's super important to ensure that you can join up those sort of breadcrumbs, both your digital breadcrumbs and your store visits. And this is very much, you know, the remit of every brand now, and not just for luxury and premium brands, but also for high street brands. Because if you don't understand how your customer and where your customer is shopping at every point of that customer journey, then you're not going to be able to optimize the customer experience. You're not going to be able to take insights and take actions over what kind of services are resonating well with your customer. And it's really important to think about, you know, this is quite a unique inflection for every brand. So one brand's approach to delivering new services will be very different for another brand's perspective. And I think, you know, that the key part to focus on is this real drive towards, you know, that your teams can sort of help the customer along every part of that customer journey, not just smaller steps in that journey. So one of the things that we also touch on is, you know, around multifunctional, is that customer-facing teams and really need to focus on being able to service that customer, particularly as part of a pre-COVID, sort of a post-COVID rather, impact is that virtual commerce has become the norm, which means that you need to look at how can I provide my customers with an appointment, how can I give a virtual consultation, what's the best mechanism for doing that. And we're seeing huge impact here, really driving great customer relationships, but also driving commerce. You know, typically when you're joining dots between different solutions, between appointment-based solutions, video chat, video call, live chat, when you bring that into an ecosystem where you can really help to ensure that you are connected with the customer all of the time, you will see sort of like metrics such as, you know, 30% to 40% increase on average transaction values. You can see repeat purchases happening really quickly, between 7 to 15 days maximum. And you're also seeing that ability to really drive that sort of customer frequency. So, you know, a customer who may have perhaps only shopped once or twice with a brand is now shopping, you know, 2 or 3 times more, because they're able to connect with the customer. They're able to ensure that they can speak to an associate, to be able to, you know, sort of ask questions, get inspiration. You know, and one of the most exciting parts of what we've been seeing lately is the ability to share those collections, like a very personalised microsite that you can share with the customer. They can feed back on dislikes and preferences, and then you can keep adapting that as you follow up with your engagement, which, you know, brings me really nicely onto an area that is top of mind and has been top of mind as a, you know, as a tech brand. And it's really about how can you enable human connection. And it's sort of like one-to-one human connection is so important, it's so powerful. It's very much focused on sort of, not just the senses, but it's also around the emotions. So often, we talk about a transaction sort of completing, and human connection is really about how do you continue to build on the emotion that you had as part of your initial purchase. And so when we look at the importance of human connection, I think, the one thing that comes above all is the fact that you do need to build a relationship with your customer. And really you should be ensuring that is focused around a person. And, technology is amazing now and can enable you to really help to scale that process, that workflow. So you can look at automating tasks, you can look at automating certain reminders and prompts so that your customer-facing teams don't necessarily have to think about when to do something. But then the actual outreach is very personal. And within, sort of a minute or so, you're able to really be able to sort of personalise thank yous, being able to follow up with a customer to check that, that they've received everything that they need to do with their purchase, whether they need any more help. And then also then building into that recommendations and being able to use a mixture of artificial intelligence to drive recommendations from machine learning, but also then to layer over the human part of that, which is super powerful. And often it's the simplest of messages that make the biggest impact. So we talk about personal being super powerful, and the approach absolutely works. It drives a relationship, it drives empathy and builds trust with a customer. And it's really, how many people actually do receive a thank you for someone who has purchased, an item, and it doesn't necessarily have to be £20 or £2,000. The important part is to actually show that as a brand, you are happy to the person, you want to follow up and make it genuine, make it authentic. This is just a really small example of a brand called Bloom Wild, who are super focused on customer, and being able to actually just say thank you for having 20 purchases. This is a very small example of how you can sort of really build that relationship with the customer and do something different that allows you to surprise and delight. So the point here is that often, it's really focused on doing something different and being able to drive that personal interaction between the client and the customer. And this is where we also look at one of the things around video. So video is a really interesting phenomenon, and I thought I would finish on this as really, as we look forward, live streaming was it has been for the last 2 or 3 years, a huge trend in China, sort of £1 billion, multi-billion pound industry, in fact, that is really driving sort of on a one-to-many basis how people are shopping. And it's very much focused around mobile, and it's very much focused around inspiring. And I think this is where, we're seeing a big change here, where the Zoom effect has kind of impacted everybody. We're all quite happy to jump on a Zoom call and have a meeting, have a chat, where that might normally have been just a phone call or, sort of a face-to-face meeting. But where video is having this impact is, I think, in this ability to sell remotely. And so really incorporating video into your sort of day-to-day running so that you can connect with customers and show them products, sort of pick up a shoe and show them all the qualities of that wonderful shoe, or a stereo system. That sounds really fun. And really taking that forward in terms of creating a hugely immersive and interactive experience. So video is really one to watch. I think we will see more examples of video coming through. I think the key part is that once you've finished with that video interaction, you need a way to follow up. So make sure that you can do your outreach, make sure you can follow up post-purchase, and really focus on creating a relationship with your customer so that you strengthen and nurture that post-purchase. So I hope that's something to give some inspiration and insight into peak. I think, as we said, this peak is going to be quite different. I think it will give an opportunity to many brands to focus on how they can drive revenue differently, perhaps still with declining footfall or with less footfall than you would have expected during a normal peak period. So the opportunity is very much to focus on preparing now. So make some strategic choices so that you can ensure that you can offer customers virtual commerce, that you can offer appointments, that you can really focus on being able to connect and kind of take the in-store experience online. So we talk a lot about, blurring lines and making sure that you can serve the online customer with a more emotional experience than a normal sort of website interaction. So, make sure that you plan now, make sure that you act and take some of those bold strategic choices now. So thank you very much.